We spend our lives staring at screens, phones, laptops, TVs, but have you ever wondered about the world behind those displays? Today, we're diving deep into the powerhouse South Korean companies that build the incredibly complex machines that, well, build our screens. And this whole analysis is based on a fantastic deep dive into 2025 financial reports from HDIN Research.
Right now, the entire display industry is in the middle of this huge transformation. We're moving away from the older LCD technology and sprinting towards the future, which is OLED. But here's the thing about a big technological shift like this. It doesn't lift all boats equally. This wave is creating some very clear winners, and it's leaving a lot of others struggling to stay afloat.
And that brings us to the core theme for today's explainer, what's known as a K-shaped recovery. It's a really powerful idea. Just picture the letter K. You have one arm that shoots up and to the right, and another that slopes down. That is a perfect picture of what's happening in this sector in 2025. A handful of hyper-specialized, high-tech companies are absolutely soaring, while many others are, unfortunately, on that downward slide.
So here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll look at the big picture, what's driving this K-shape. Then, we'll meet the giants of innovation at the very top. After that, we'll follow the money and see just how stark the divide is. We'll also look at how some companies are trying to pivot, and we'll wrap up with the single biggest risk that's looming over the whole industry.
So what is causing this massive split? Well, it pretty much all comes down to a tidal wave of investment into one very specific technology: next-generation OLED displays for things like laptops and tablets. This new 8.6 generation IT-OLED, that's where all the money is going. And you know who's writing the checks? The huge display panel giants, particularly out of China.
In this chart, wow, it just perfectly illustrates the massive scale we're talking about here. I mean, look at BOE, just one Chinese company applying more than $8 billion into this tech. This fire hose of cash is the absolute lifeline for the equipment makers, and it's creating this massive demand for some very, very specific high-tech machinery. Okay, so who's actually catching all this cash? Let's meet the giants, the innovators. These are the companies with exactly the right tech at exactly the right time. They are firmly on that upward slope of the K.
And first up, we have a company that is the poster child for this whole trend, Sunic System.
Sunic System is, without a doubt, the king of OLED evaporators. That's the absolutely essential machine for making these new displays. And because of this investment boom, their revenue exploded by a staggering 356% year over year. They basically have a monopoly on this super high-value equipment. And get this, they're already working on the machines that will build the AR and VR displays of the future.
All right, next up, we've got a different kind of winner. The analysis calls this one a hidden champion, and that company is Viatron.
Now, Viatron's technology might not sound as flashy, but it's absolutely critical. They're the masters of heat treatment, and you can't make these advanced ITO OLED panels without their gear. But what's really interesting to me is their strategy. They are smartly taking their expertise and applying it to a whole new industry, semiconductors. It's a brilliant move to de-risk their business.
And the third giant of innovation we're looking at is ICD. They are leaders in another absolutely crucial step in the manufacturing process.
ICD is the global leader in what's called dry etching. Think of it like a microscopic sculptor carving out all the tiny circuits on a display. But here's the genius part of their business model. Almost 18% of their revenue doesn't come from selling new machines. It comes from high-margin parts and services. That creates this really powerful and sustainable profit moat that is incredibly hard for any competitor to get across.
Okay, so we've met the winners, but now let's look at the cold, hard numbers that really tell this story of a K-shaped divide. This is truly a tale of two very different fortunes, and you can see it right in the data. I mean, this table says it all, doesn't it? You can literally see the K-shape right here in the numbers. At the top, you have the core technology leaders like Sunic System with that just bonkers growth, but then look at the bottom half. Companies that specialize in things like laser repair and inspection, their revenues are actually shrinking. HB Solution is down more than 52%. The contrast is just brutal. So the big question is why? Why the huge difference? Well, the robust leaders, they own patented, core, front-end technology. It's stuff you absolutely have to have. They have a technological moat around their business. The laggards, on the other hand, they're often in these more commoditized, back-end processes. And there, they face just vicious price competition and the constant threat of being replaced by cheaper, domestic Chinese companies.
So faced with this reality, the industry is not just sitting around, the smart ones anyway. They're actively trying to de-risk their own futures by pivoting toward completely new frontiers.
And what's really interesting is that the analysis shows a very clear three-step playbook emerging. Step 1, everybody is focused on the immediate money and 8.6 Gen IT OLED. Okay, that makes sense. Step 2, they're looking at the growing market for advanced displays in cars. And step 3, this is the big one, they're making a strategic leap to diversify into semiconductor packaging, using the precision manufacturing skills they already have.
Now that all sounds like a pretty smart plan, but as we look down the road, this analysis flags one single major risk that is hanging over the entire sector like a cloud. And this chart makes that risk crystal clear. On average, a whopping 70% of the entire sector's revenue comes from a single market, mainland China. Now, while China is the engine of growth today, having that level of dependency on one single customer, that creates a huge potential vulnerability down the line.
And the analysts from HDIN research really don't pull any punches here. They state it very plainly. This dependency is the industry's single greatest potential vulnerability. It is the classic definition of putting all of your eggs in one basket.
Which leaves us with this final, really critical question to think about. This pivot to semiconductors seems like a logical and frankly necessary move to diversify. But will it actually secure the sector's long-term future? Or are these companies just trading one dependency on display giants for a brand new dependency on semiconductor giants? That is the billion-dollar question they'll have to answer on the road ahead.